Doctor Who's first two-parter was made as part of the first production block, along with Rose, the first episode. The Cardiff Royal Infirmary was used as a set for the Albion Hospital. The exterior of 10 Downing Street was a similar house in central London, while the interior was filmed in Hensall Castle, Vale of Glamorgan. The production team had intended to suggest that the murdered Prime Minister in this episode was Tony Blair, the then current Prime Minister, but when the actor playing the dead body bared little resemblance, they decided to avoid showing his face clearly, though the suggestion that this is Tony Blair is still in the finished episode when Harriet Jones refers to herself as hardly one of the babes, a reference to the large number of female Labour MPs that were dubbed Blair's Babes. This is also the first appearance of semi-recurring characters Harriet Jones and Trinity Wells, and they would make subsequent appearances across the Russell T Davies era. Originally, the individual episode titles were going to be Aliens of London Parts 1 and 2, but this was soon changed to World War III, making this the first time since The Gunfighters where stories with multiple episodes had their own titles. With the production out of the way, the story involves the Doctor taking Rose home, but due to the dates being wrong, Rose has left her family for over a year as opposed to 12 hours. Rose is believed to have been murdered by Mickey, and Jackie is furious of her not telling her the truth of where she had gone. Meanwhile, a spaceship crashes into Big Ben and falls into the River Thames. London is shut down, the Prime Minister disappears, the Doctor discovers that the alien craft was launched in fact from the planet Earth, and the pilot is an Earth pig that has been modified by alien technology. When Jackie discovers the truth about the TARDIS, the Doctor and Rose are escorted to 10 Downing Street to meet with fellow alien experts. The Slitheen, disguised as politicians, murder the experts while the Doctor joins forces with Harriet Jones, MP for Unfunny Recurring Joke, Flydale North. Making contact with Mickey, the Doctor instructs him to log on to the unit website, while the Slitheen declare a matter of national security and request the United Nations to release the nuclear defence codes to launch a nuclear strike against a fictitious mothership, but secretly plan to fire weapons against other countries in order to start World War III. This two-parter aimed to show how Rose's home life would be affected by her travels with the Doctor, something we hadn't really seen before with companions, and does it succeed? Well, yes and no. Don't get me wrong, there is stuff to like about this two-parter, but I have mixed thoughts on this story. I do like the scale of this story. The sequence where the spaceship crashes into the Thames is a great scene, and I equally love the reaction seen on British TV. I love the chaos on the news seen throughout the episode. It's a whole new world for the human race, and from their point of view, first contact with aliens, and they don't know how to react to it all. Just seeing it all on the news gives the whole episode such a scale to it all, and feels reflective of how we'd react to a worldwide problem. However, my main problem with this two-parter is its tone. How the hell am I supposed to feel when watching this thing? The story often shifts between an adult drama to a CBBC kids show. For example, we get a minute of farting politicians, which is then immediately followed by the Slitheen unmasking themselves and murdering the General. Sorry, but what came before it just robs the scene of any horror or tension that you were going for. We also have a scene in Albion Hospital that is almost staged like a horror movie when the alien pilot breaks out of its tomb, but is then revealed to be a space pig. Seriously, for me, it just took away all the tension. Furthermore, we get scenes where characters run terrified away from the Slitheen, but the Doctor just says hello to them as he comes out of a lift. So, am I supposed to be scared of these aliens or find them funny? There's also the missile scene, which could result in the deaths of many in Downing Street, and Jackie is aware of this, and she sees the missile go by Mickey's flat. But again, it's cutting scenes of the Slitheen trying to be funny when they need to escape in their skin suits. We also get the Doctor contemplating saving the world, but it could mean losing Rose. Two problems with this scene. A, she's not worth it, but I'll explain that in a bit. And B, it's immediately followed by the Slitheen proclaiming,
"Victory should be naked."
See what I mean? You should pick a tone and stick with it, but this story tries to have its cake and eat it. Christopher Eccleston does continue to shine in this two-parter, often nailing the comedic moments again.
Excuse me, do you mind not farting while I'm saving the world?
Okay, that line never fails to make me laugh. I also like the Doctor's glee at witnessing the spaceship crash. To him, history is happening right in front of his eyes, and to him it's fantastic. He doesn't know what the spaceship is, where it came from, he didn't know it was going to happen, but just seeing humans, make first contact with aliens is brilliant to him. though I question why he watches the TV in Jackie's flat when he has one in his own TARDIS. I do like his compassion for the space pig that was scared, but when it's shot by the soldier and the Doctor berates him for it, okay, the scene has good intentions and all, but the problem is, it was a walking space pig! Again, it goes back to the problem of tone that I have with this story. I also like how he explains what his life is like to Jackie. It's not fun or smart, it's standing up for something and helping out when no one else will. That is the epitome of the Doctor's character, in my opinion. However, I'd say my Christopher Eccleston moment of the week has to be his standoff against Margaret Blaine. He gives them an ultimatum: leave the Earth or he will stop them. The Slovenes simply laugh and Margaret answers back with, "What, you? Trapped in your box?" The Doctor simply responds, "Yes, me." There's so much intimidation said in those two words. It shows that the Doctor can be such a force to be reckoned with. Less is more is often better, and that sequence is a prime example for me. Also, the very next scene is showing a deserted London with the news proclaiming the end of the world and the release of the nuclear defence codes being imminent. So, point to you, World War III, you had a great moment that wasn't deflated by juvenile humour. Another interesting thing to point out here is the Doctor's age is first mentioned here since Time of the Rani, though in that story he said he was to be 953, and here he gives his age as 900. Small detail, I know, but continuity, what's that? As for Rose Tyler, just as when I was starting to like her more in the previous two episodes, the character becomes unlikable for me. Okay, so she leaves her family for a year. Now granted, that was out of her power because the TARDIS got the dates wrong, etc., but she doesn't seem to be ready for the consequences. For example, Mickey was left traumatised after the events of Rose, and for a whole year waited for her to come back. While everyone thought that he had murdered her, he was questioned by the police multiple times and more or less had his life ruined. Now, if I hadn't seen my girlfriend for a long time, the first thing I'd do is see her to make sure she was alright. Now I've got to get a girlfriend first, but anyway, the point still stands. Rose does say, "I was going to come and see you," but if anything, that should have been the second thing you should have done when you got back. The first being seeing her traumatised mum. I mean, I give her points there, but you should have waited for him to come to you. You should have gone out and seeked him. Ugh. I mean, I get Mickey's a bit of a klutz and a bit of an idiot and all, but he's nice and he practically worships the very air she breathes. I mean, Mickey deserves much better here. Now, I know her defence is it's only been a few days from her point of view. That doesn't make a difference. As for her scenes inside Downing Street, the character fares a bit better, but when the Doctor says he could save the world but lose her in the process, I'm just sat there thinking, she ain't worth it at all, mate. If she was a more likeable character earlier on in this story, I might have been more invested in this scene, but it does nothing for me because of Rosa's actions, or lack thereof. However, one moment I do like is her taking a decision for them all in the cabinet room and using the cupboard to survive the missile attack. I mean, I don't know if that would really work, but it shows ingenuity, so there's a point for you. As for the supporting cast, again, it's kind of my problem with the story as a whole. Good ideas and pretty good performances, but the execution is just too CBBC at points. The actors playing the Slovenes disguised as the politicians aren't bad. The problem is that they just feel way too over the top and just too, again, CBBC for me to be taken seriously. If this was on the Sarah Jane Adventures, I'd be a bit more forgiving. As Game of Thrones fans, General Asquith in this story is John Royce from Season 4 onwards. I do like Penelope Wilton as Harriet Jones, but again, her performance at times is a bit too over the top, and you may disagree with me here, but I think she holds the distinction of giving the first piece of terrible New Who acting. I'm sorry, but that's up there with performances like this.
My dreams of conquest!
However, I do like her arc of becoming a better politician by the end of the story. Having met the Doctor, she's able to do what her job is. She's the one who grants permission for Mickey to use the missile as being the only representative in the room. She feels she holds the power and gives the order to help save the world. Now, if only all politicians were like that. I also find it a bit funny how when the Doctor gives the reason where she's heard her name before, it's because she's the future Prime Minister and being called the architect of Britain's Golden Age, which, come Christmas time, the Doctor will have totally screwed up.
Don't you think she looks tired?
Yay? I have to say I do love Noel Clarke as Mickey, and I really dislike how his character is written. He's a character who's literally done nothing wrong, yet is constantly berated by the Doctor. He just comes across as too mean for me, and is called an idiot. However, I think the episode is key to his growth. He's vital in saving the world as he hacks into the unit website to launch a missile at Downing Street. By the way, the most top secret website that has access to alien files and allows you to hack into the Royal Navy, and the password for all this is Buffalo? Who made that password? Sergeant Benton? I also love how he's willing to take on a Slovene with a bat and telling Jackie to run despite pointing the finger at him for murder. He will defend her. God, I love Mickey. Noel Clarke for me is such an underrated actor, and as a character he does whine a lot and, acts like a klutz, but his performance just makes it so real and you really feel for Mickey. Why does everyone hate him? It's not fair. I also love how he turns the Doctor down at the end when he offers to come with them, but he thinks he's not ready for those travels yet. His growth across the first few series of New Who felt very natural to me, and this is his showing of his potential being fulfilled. As for Jackie, I do like how in this story she's seen both the positives and negatives of the Doctor's world. The negatives being that she's had her daughter disappear for a year, being attacked by a Slovene in her own home, and nearly loses her daughter again. However, because they were successful in the end, she's able to see that the Doctor is good in a crisis, and is even willing to sit down with him and talk. But of course, the Doctor doesn't go for that type of lifestyle. We also have Dr. Sato, played by Naoki Mori. Now this is the same character who would be called Toshiko Sato in Torchwood, the Doctor Who spin-off. However, her appearance as a doctor in this episode would be a bit of a continuity error, as she was the tech expert in that series, while Owen Harper was the medical officer. Now this was explained in the Series 2 finale of Torchwood, as Tosh was covering for Owen because he was suffering from a hangover. I just don't know how the staff at the hospital didn't see that the Torchwood Doctor suddenly had a sex change. As for the Slovene, again, I have mixed thoughts on them. I do like their plan of using scaremongering to get what they want. They're practically a parody of Tony Blair and New Labour. Don't believe me? Check out how unsubtle the dialogue is.
Then they have found massive weapons of destruction, capable of being deployed within 45 seconds.
Tonight, British servicemen and women are engaged from air, land and sea. Their mission? To remove Saddam Hussein from power and disarm Iraq of its weapons of mass destruction.
And fans say Series 11 had no subtlety. Furthermore, I do like how they're not out to invade the world because they're evil. They're out to make a profit for their family, and that's quite interesting. Plus, that is the second villain this series that's been motivated by money, and another dig at capitalism. God, Russell, you're some kind of communist, is what a silly person would say. Plan, the Slovenes is quite interesting, but in terms of how they look, I'm not gonna lie here, they look like shit. The bodies are pretty impressive, but the baby faces make them look completely unthreatening. I'm really not a fan of this design at all. However, when it comes to the CGI during the chase scenes, they look far worse. They don't even resemble the practical effects. I mean, it's so bad you could make a game out of it.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other by the time I finish this song?
Two of these things are crappy practical effects, but this is the most unconvincing CGI since Food Fight. However, I do like the effect of them getting out of their skin suits. Seriously, as a kid, when it got dark, I used to turn off the lights in my room and the blue effect would just fill the room. Try it. Though it might hurt your eyes if you do it too much. I'm evident of that. Furthermore, their skin suit reveal is also used to give us Doctor Who's first cliffhanger since the series came back. And yeah, it's a nice callback to the classic series where they would typically reveal the monster at the end of part 1. Two problems I have with this scene though. If it takes the Slovenes so long for them to unmask, why don't they all just run away? And the cliffhanger is kind of ruined by the next time trailer popping up right after the ending, showing the characters that we previously saw in peril all alive and well. So while the motivation is pretty good satire, the execution is pretty naff. And I liked them as a kid, but growing up, I personally don't think they hold up anymore. Production-wise, there's nothing much that stands out from this episode. In all honesty, the direction feels a bit flat to me, as there's nothing memorable that I can really pick out. However, I do like the music by Murray Gold. My favourite track is when the spaceship hits Big Ben and crash lands. The music really brings that scene to life. Awesome stuff. So, to conclude, Aliens of London and World War III has pretty good ideas and impressive scope to it all, but its uneven tone, CBBC acting and ridiculous monsters squander the potential that this two-parter has. Well everyone, that's all from me. Be sure to like and share. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this two-parter, and if you think I was a bit too harsh on this story, be sure to stick around for my review of the next episode, where I guarantee I'll be gushing all over it.